This is The Gorge. It's a podcast where my friend Sara and I gorge ourselves in overanalyzing a topic.
The Gorge is brought to you by Patreon. That's patreon.com/thegorge, where for just $5 a month, you gain access to not one, but two entire podcasts. $5 gets you Takeout, a monthly commentary track where Ben and I decide we don't feel like playing anything, so instead we watch something and talk over it. And $2, only $2 a month gets you That's Hell You're Walking Into, a series where Ben and I dive deep into the lottery system of Fate Grand Order, and we talk about farming comp. No, that's actually extremely boring. Instead, well, okay, we talk about that a little bit.
We do talk a little bit.
We talk about that a little bit, but mostly, That's Hell You're Walking Into is a podcast where Ben asks me questions about Fate Stay Night, Fate Grand Order, and the extended Naziverse, and I do my damnedest to answer them. Sometimes he asks me accidental questions about Tsukihime, and I have to go, and then sometimes he asks me things that I should know, and then I don't, and it's really funny. So hey, if you think that sounds fun, head on over to patreon.com/thegorge. Kick in however much you can, from $2 to $5 to $10 to $50. Please don't actually give us $50 a month. That's the scam tier. But if you love us that much and you want to give us $50 a month, we do appreciate it. But we also appreciate the people who just give us $2. Listen, it's all love around here, baby. You know? So
thanks to the combined efforts of Robin the Bun, Rodsters, Ben's Delivery Service, Palm of Power, Jeff B. Drada, Steel Condor, Nihar Bat, Red Lantern Reviews, Holy Star 64, Mignon Hellcat, Patrick Perez, Rosie One Half, Saturn, Alice Marks, Shia, Magus, Jack, Liam Lane, and that other one dude. We are now at over $100 a month, which means when I get to Kingdom Hearts 2 in the road to Kingdom Hearts 4, my quote-unquote bi-weekly stream of all of Kingdom Hearts.
Correct.
I have to do Atlantica.
You poor bastard.
So I'm going to do all of Atlantica. I'm going to seal that keyhole.
What is it? Finny Fun? Is that the
Finny
song?
Fun.
Finny Fun?
That's the song.
Are you looking forward to that?
No. Because not only are the songs themselves bad, it's not even a good rhythm game.
A bad rhythm game with bad songs.
It's super like simplistic and straightforward.
Boring and with bad music.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think any of the if they are, they're bonus content that I didn't even play them, but like I don't even think those songs are in the main story of Melody of Memory.
That's great. That's because they knew how bad they were.
Yeah.
The point is, because of your donations at patreon.com/thegorge, you've made that possible. And hey, if you want to watch Ben suffer through Atlantica and Kingdom Hearts 2, that's twitch.tv/thegorgepodcast. So
also tune in whenever I do random ass runs of Goemon.
And Kingdom Hearts. That's all we got now, baby. It's fine.
Yeah. Kingdom Hearts is ostensibly every Wednesday and Sunday, unless I switch the days around because of life. And Goemon is whenever I feel like it. I'm just going to hit start. If you happen to be in this area, you can come watch.
Congratulations.
Anyway,
Ben, what are we talking about? Oh, hey, we're asking each other the same question. Well, Ben, we are talking finally. It's been so long since they announced it, but we're finally talking about the Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
Yes.
Because they announced that like last year, and then they took their sweet fucking time to actually put it out.
We knew it was coming when we did the ROTTMNT episode.
Yeah, exactly. Which is over a year ago now?
2 years, I think.
Has it really been 2 years? Oh,
I was in the apartment when we did that episode.
Oh, God. We're old and time goes extremely fast now. Well,
yeah.
The movie's finally out, and I see why it took 2 years.
Well, yeah, you have to animate every single frame. It does take a long time.
If you animate an entire movie on ones immaculately, then yeah, I would think that an hour and 20-minute long movie would take a really long time. Crazy how that works.
Yeah.
This movie whipped ass. I mean, like, that's the beginning. Like, that's the starter point for it, is that this movie fucking owns. If you haven't watched it yet, and you haven't even watched Rise, one, all of Rise is now on Netflix, so you now have no excuse. Yes. Go watch that, please. It's extremely good. And then watch the movie and be absolutely fucking astounded by probably the best animation Western animation has to offer. Like, unironically, I think of all of the Western animation studios. Mind you, I will say that in terms of style, the field is pretty barren. It really is just like Rise, and like that's it in terms of
Spider-Verse.
Like Spider-Verse, yeah, in terms of like a stylistic decision that I enjoy, like aesthetically. Like I know that the Owl House and Amphibia and stuff have like good animation, but they are not a style of animation that I have any interest in, versus like Spider-Verse and Rise, which look incredible, like in terms of pure style. So like, but it really is the only movie that is better than it is actually Spider-Verse. Like that's it in terms of visual style and like clarity of vision, of aesthetics.
And there, like, I don't, like, God, it really is just, oh goodness.
Okay.
Okay.
You're gonna forget to edit that out, but
powerful barking. No, I'm leaving that in on purpose because that was funny.
That is the power of my mom's dog with his extremely loud barking. So that's cool.
What I was gonna say that it's Spider-Verse and Rise are what's your favorite mech from Zone of the Enders, Jehuti or Anubis, whichever one you looked at last.
That's right. They are. I mean, it is just. It is. I mean, it is like stunning. The major complaint I have about this movie is that it wasn't long enough. Right? Like, I watched this movie and I really enjoyed it, mind you. But like the thing that stands out to it, and I remember we were talking about this when we did the original Rise episode, is that I was like, it has to be 2 hours long. And I was right. Yeah. It needed to be 2 hours long. There wasn't enough in terms of like meat on this bone. And I mean, like, obviously they own. I know that like Andy Soriano and like all the different animation directors and keyframe guys on the project have been posting like shit tons of deleted scenes and stuff to Twitter. So they obviously had the material and then had to make cuts for like budgetary reasons or maybe executive decisions, stuff like that. But like this movie is way too short.
It is.
It does not have a lot of like character development meat on the bone. It has to be like, what's the word? It has to be like brutally utilitarian with the story it's telling to have enough time to get all of the points it wants to get across, right?
They said on Twitter that they weren't allowed to use Baron Draxum, any of the Hidden City. They had to really push to use Hypno and Warren. And to sneak in a cameo for Cassandra at the very end.
That is insane to me.
Nickelodeon or Netflix or whoever was like, you need to make this so that people don't have to watch Rise to understand what's happening. Like, it needs to be as standalone movie as possible.
Which is insane to me. Yeah. Like, it is ostensibly the finale to this TV series. Like, in a perfect world, all of that stuff would come into play because, like, all of that stuff was essential to the main story of like the TV series, right?
Yeah. And what I would like is, if it ever does come back, what I would like them to do is do a Resurrection F. And over the course of like a few episodes of the hypothetical season, retell this, but like expand it.
Yeah, but like make it, because like we barely get any time with Casey. I mean, like you said, we don't see Draxum, we don't see Cassandra, we don't see any of the Hidden City stuff. And to me, like that was the most like, I'm not a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan. I'm not the kind of person who really gives a shit about like the whole extended franchise. And so like, to me, the most interesting stuff was all the stuff that got added with Rise that is unique to it, that made it like different and cool compared to the rest of the franchise. So, like, that's all, like, a pretty glaring omission. Like, there's no real, like, even referencing to the whole Lujitsu thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, yeah, they had their hands tied. It sucks ass, because, like, this movie is so, like, it is immaculately beautiful and still somehow feels unfinished. And that's not their fault,
Yeah.
you know? Like,
no, it's there. And, like, right afterward, if we have time, I want to get into it. But there's, like, there was a whole Q&A stream where they're like, here were all of our plans for season 3.
Yeah. You know,
and it's like heartbreaking, because this show really deserved so much better than what it ended up, the hand it got dealt.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you know, not to get into it too deep, but, like, this is the era of just Western animation, like, having more creative talent that, you know, it has the wealth of heavens at its disposal, and it at every single turn just seems to squander and discard it. You know, it's funny, in finger quotes, that we're talking about this movie after what happened with HBO Max taking down Infinity Train and OKKO and Mau Mau and a bunch of other, like, really well, like, stuff that I don't personally have any involvement in, but is still, like, well made, well crafted animation that's had, like, their heart and soul poured into it, and it's just, like, so effortlessly discarded in order to, you know,
save a few bucks
and fill out a line on an accountant spreadsheet, you know? And what happened to Rise was, like, the early indicator of that this is kind of the only future that Western animation currently has right now, as we're kind of in this death spiral of creativity. Like, yeah, we're going to get our godforsaken, wretched Seth Rogen movie after all of this is being said and done, despite the fact that we had a perfectly good TMNT franchise, and it was treated like shit. It was treated like dog shit by everybody involved, you know?
It's kind of like what we were joking about last week when I was talking about how, like, watching Gargoyles for the first time and being like, season 2 has 56 episodes in it?
50? Could you imagine if Rise had been allowed to have 56 episodes in its second season?
Right?
We would have had a complete... I wouldn't complain that it only got 2 seasons. We would have had a complete, you know, story being told over the course of, you know, the OG 11 season, like, the first 11 episodes of the first season, and then 56 episodes after that. Like, goddamn. We could only dream of that. To have, you know, especially to have something as, like, beautifully and lovingly animated as Rise is, right? Like, that's really what it comes back to.
Like, I will continuously praise Flying Bark for everything they do.
Yeah, I don't even watch their Lego TV show, but apparently, I mean, like, I've seen clips from it and it's gorgeous, right?
Like, you can tell it's the same studio.
Yeah, it's the same studio. They have such an extremely
they're the Western
style.
Yeah, they're the Western Golden Age Gynax. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
You know,
except unlike Gynax, who, like, had a hit on their hands in the form of Evangelion, and afterwards had, you know, the capital to do whatever they want, essentially, and that's how Gurren Lagann and FLCL were able to manifest. You know, because they had all that sweet Evangelion green. You know, Flying Bark, and I mean Western studios in general, are just they have to just kind of scrape by, and you can still just kind of have your work deleted on a whim by some freak, you know, by some bloodless monster. It's
just the insult of, like, every guy in a business suit, every old man in a business suit who doesn't, who just sees animation as this obligation.
Sure, it's for
because
children.
Kids need something, yeah.
Yeah, and it's, you know, and children don't need any kind of, like, greater stimulus than just, like, the most rancid dog shit put in front of their face, right? Like, there's no need for, like, anything more kind of intelligent or thoughtful or, like, artful, right?
Yeah, and there's no way an adult would even care about any kind of animation that isn't 5 or 6 keyframes of people standing in a room and making joke.
Yeah. Yeah. It is, it is hard to come away from Rise with any kind of um optimistic view of Western animation. Like
Yeah.
in like this post HBO Max kind of landscape, it's hard to come away from watching this movie, which is a great movie. Like we'll talk about the finer details of the movie. But it is hard to come away from this movie with any kind of optimism for the future of Western animation, considering that like it is at every turn being like stripped down. Like it's considered the disposable wing of animation or of filmmaking in general. You know,
we always talk about how like, or not us, but like people talk about like, oh no, kids cartoons are so much better when I was a kid.
No, they're not.
No, for a couple of years, objectively, like kids had like a fucking cornucopia of prestigious cartoons to get into.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and
like,
even now, despite the cuts, like there's so much old stuff to go back and watch from the last 10 years.
Yeah. But like, not only are they just being cut, they're being just like not. It used to be like, oh, the show got canceled, or like the show got ended, or it's only getting 3 seasons or whatever. But now these shows are just becoming unavailable.
Yeah, absolutely. This is kind of the end game of ensuring that like a whole generation of people don't know how to pirate their media, right? Because like for years and years, streaming services became a thing, and everyone was like, well, I don't need to learn how to pirate because I can just watch whatever I want on a streaming service. I can pay for it with my money, and I'll be able to get it legitimately, and it will exist in perpetuity on this streaming service. Never mind the fact that, that was always an extremely naive proposal that like, that streaming could ever replace the necessity of piracy. Piracy has always, since
digital media existed, piracy has been a necessity.
It's a necessity. Like, we talk about old video games, and I think a lot about old episodes of Doctor Who that don't exist anymore because of the BBC essentially erasing them to make room for other stuff, right? And the only reason,
like MST3K put it in the corner of every episode. Keep circulating the tapes.
Yeah, absolutely. The only reason we still have any access to like something like 300 episodes of classic Doctor Who, only exists because fans taped it back in the day, right? Like
because of some old lady in a tiny little house in Westfordshire got a VCR and taped every episode of Doctor Who.
Yeah, exactly. And what we're seeing now is kind of the like what happens when you make people think that like media piracy is not an essential part of maintaining the existence of media. You actually have to, in order to have a healthy media landscape where you have access to art and culture, you have to have a piracy scene. You have to have a scene of people who are willing to circulate shit illegally for no money. Because otherwise stuff's just going to go away forever.
You have the fucking creator of Infinity Train on Twitter being like, yeah, pirate it. I mean, there's nothing else you can do.
Yeah, you literally, your only option is buy it off of iTunes. You can buy it there still, because this last week, Infinity Train was like the number one, like all 4 seasons of Infinity Train were the number one most bought thing on iTunes. Or you pirate it. Those are your 2 options, And
even at this point, unless you download those episodes to your iPad and keep them there, they can just go away from your download list.
Yeah, absolutely. They can just totally remove that. Yeah.
It's disgusting.
So, all of this just kind of comes back to how Rise got treated and how like even coming away from this, as good as this movie is, it still mostly fills me with like not a sense of necessarily optimism, unless something like goes crazy and this movie fucking lights up the internet and they make a third and fourth season, which I would fucking love.
Save ROTTMNT has been trending every single day since the movie came out.
Yeah.
And like the staff have been saying like if we get enough buzz, we can negotiate for a third season. It's not impossible. It's very, very unlikely. I'm not going to like get my hopes up for it. But it could happen.
Maybe something nice. That's going to be the title card for this episode. Well, no, it's because it's Louis C.K. and I don't want to.
I don't want to put his face on that.
I don't want to put his face on anything, but I do. Despite Louis C.K. being who he is, my whole life I have, for several years, gone. Maybe something nice will happen. Why the fuck would anything nice ever happen ever? Because that is an extreme. Or maybe the title card can be Felix Biederman during Fighting in the Age of Loneliness, just saying you're fucked too.
Yeah.
This will come for everything you love. Not to be like a huge bummer, but you should listen. There's a final speech. I cited it like 100 times in various and sundry episodes of The Gorge, but there's a final speech at the end of Fighting in the Age of Loneliness by Felix Biederman on SB Nation, where he's talking about MMA fighting and how it became so commodified by capital forces that it's unrecognizable from like the weird sport for freaks that it used to be. And at the very end of it, he says like, this will come for everything you love. If you think this is just about our violent blood sport for idiots, you're fucked too. That's a paraphrasing of it, but like, what he's saying is this, you can't avoid it. It comes for everything eventually. So you should pirate your media, is what I'm saying, folks. Pirate your cartoons, keep them on a nice solid state, external SSD, and just hang on to them forever. Well,
you know what? Actually, in this case, get like a 3 terabyte hard drive, because an SSD will eventually will fade quicker than a regular hard drive.
No, you know what? We're not going to argue about that one right now.
The point is pirate it, get it on some kind of external storage device, and just, you never know when someone's going to need it eventually.
Someday you might be the person who's able to produce those lost 200 episodes of Doctor Who, is what I'm saying.
Look, there is no streaming service where Bakano is playing, so those DVDs we both own are like rare treasures.
That's true. I actually probably should burn those get what's on those DVDs onto a hard drive, because physical media like that, like CDs especially, fail over like an extremely short period of time. So I probably should try and get those on a backup somewhere. The point is, now that we're 23 minutes into the episode, maybe we should actually talk about the movie that's so good.
Just to bridge the gap a little bit, kids will never have a cartoon as good as Rise of TMNT again, and adults will never have a cartoon as good as Smiling Friends again.
That's right.
That's what we need more of in this culture. Is we need more Rise and we need more Smiling Friends.
Rise especially is just like, like I said early, kind of alluded to earlier in the episode. I don't really like how, I'm an adult now, so like I'm not really too into how like most modern cartoons look. It's just, that's not my thing anymore, right? Like it's not really like a judgment. It's just a personal preference. But I really like how Rise looks. I think it's so just... There are so many shots, and this is echoing what we said in the episode about the TV series. There are so many shots where it's like, boy, you guys really, really like Gurren Lagann. Huh?
There's a fucking in the movie. There's just a fucking shot for shot ripoff of Evangelion.
Yeah, no, there are full-fledged full-fledged Eva shot ripoffs. There's there's that whole part at the end of the movie with Leo and the last Krang where he's just getting his ass beat, and it's like, hey, I saw that part of Gurren. There's so much of it. It whips ass. They just wear their influences on their sleeve, which is possibly my favorite way of doing it. There are so many shots like, it was already really blatant with, like, the Shredder stuff, like, where they were drawing their influences.
Yeah.
But
Well,
once the Krang get their robot bodies, it's even more obvious, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, you knew right away the fact that very blatantly the thing Shredder does in the final, like, you know, clash of energy is he forms a bunch of drills.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yeah, we see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
we know what you watched in 2007.
Yeah, we also watched it, and everybody who made this cartoon held that in their brains for the rest of their life. That's what we call formative media, baby.
Yeah.
Because Gurren was also formative to me, so I understand completely. But yeah, no, it's fantastic. Like, even though it is kind of light on character, like the actual storytelling part of it, because they had their hands tied. This movie should have been 2 hours long. Just like I said,
it should have. Yeah,
it needed to be 2 hours long to get everything across that it obviously wanted to get across.
We needed 10 more minutes of future content.
Yes,
and 20 more minutes of like character interaction.
Yeah, like Casey just hanging out and you know getting more stuff like that. Like, man, it's such a shame because what we get is really good. Like, what we have is really good. Like, there's good, you know, despite it being kind of an accelerated story beats, I suppose. Like, those accelerated story beats are executed extremely well. Like, I think the movie has good writing, and it has, I mean, obviously some of the best fight scenes I've ever seen, ever.
Yeah, no doubt.
Anything. Yeah, it's great. I don't even know where to start in terms of talking about the movie.
I do want to circle back real quick to something I mentioned last week. Just to kind of like to open it, which is like compared to the other two Nickelodeon cartoons turned Netflix movies, Zim and Rocco. This is the best because it actually does what Static Cling should have done and what Florpus tried to do but didn't have enough time to do.
Right.
Which was be a movie. Yeah.
Be like a full, this is an hour and 20 minutes. Well, it's an hour and 10 minutes because there's credits at the end of the movie. Are there after credit scenes, by the way?
No, there's not.
Okay, because I had to fight. I was fighting with, I hate Netflix. Fuck, I hate Netflix so much. I was fighting with Netflix to like skip through to through the credits so I could see. And it kept taking me to like the TV show. You know how Netflix just automatically skips you to like the next episode. It kept doing that. So I hate Netflix. Go to hell. But so it's like an hour and 10 minutes long. But that's still like, you're knocking on the door of a real feature length, right? Like, I mean, an hour and 20. So it is an hour and 20 minutes long, you know, in terms of runtime. And that's theatrical runtime. You can put this in movie theaters. And like, yeah, it's like a real movie with plot beats and character development and rising action and a climax and all that good shit, right? Yeah.
Like Static Cling was just 2 episodes stapled together because its runtime was like 45 minutes. And Florpus kind of felt more like an OVA than a movie.
Yeah, the rare American OVA.
Yeah, and this is just like, no, yeah, you could go watch this in a movie theater. It's animated on the ones. The visuals took a huge... Like, I didn't think Rise could look better.
Yeah, no, I'm actually really stunned by it. Because, like, when I was watching Rise, I'm just like, oh, yeah, this is, like, almost... This is... For certain sequences, this is almost... theatrical quality. And then I actually saw, like, a Rise movie, and I'm like, never mind, I don't know what I'm talking about. Clearly, I have no idea what I'm talking about.
But yeah, it could have been longer. It was ultimately marred by having to be self-contained. But it's hard for me to want to hold it against it, you know?
Yeah, I can't really hold it against the movie when you know how stacked the deck is,
Yeah.
right? Like, to a certain extent, I know that that's kind of excuse made, but like, context does matter in the through the lens of like looking at a movie, right? Like, context does matter. You have to like take a look at the landscape that something was made sometimes to understand why it turned out the way it did. So if it missed the mark in some way, sometimes by looking at the landscape in which it was created, you can understand why. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So like nothing is, no piece of art is made in a vacuum. It's all kind of influenced by the forces surrounding it and propelling it into its creation. And this movie is no different, It is definitely flimsy in a lot of ways. Like, I was watching it and I was like, this is really good, but I really wish we could like let some of these plot points breathe. But like, they had a lot to do in a short period of time, right? And they really like, there aren't any scenes, because like in something else you would be able to watch it and go, well, why did we waste time fucking around with X when we could have been doing more character development and stuff? You watch this movie, it's like, there's no time. Listen, we got as much as we... If you want to have all that fun action shit, you're gonna have to take a little bit more pared down story, right?
Right. Like part of the nature of it having to be self-contained is that for certain characters, we don't, since they aren't emphasized as much, we don't get their Rise exclusive quirks.
Right.
Like Splinter and April kind of took a hit in terms of presentation. Yeah. Because they couldn't be as different compared to other versions of Splinter and April.
Right, yeah. Like, April is just plucky journalist girl and doesn't have any of her, like, magic shit going on. Like, she doesn't even have her cool magic bat. Like, she never gets to use her cool magic bat. It sucks. And, like, Splinter kind of gets his one moment of being, like, a lousy, lazy, shithead dad. But, like, that's all he really gets to be before he kind of seriouses up. Yeah. And that's just because, like, they had to cut away the idiosyncrasies of what those characters are like in Rise.
And this is, and the other part is that since this is post-character development for those characters.
Right.
A lot of that would have faded away naturally, but what I like about the way Rise does character development is that elements don't get removed, they get recontextualized. Yeah,
I get you.
Like, to me, the thing that stands out the most is that Splinter doesn't call the boys by their colors at all.
Yeah. That's like a fun little goofy character quirk, because it's just like his dad nickname for everyone, right?
Yeah. So it sucks because Rise Splinter is like one of my favorite characters in TMNT as a whole.
Yeah, no, because he's extremely funny and just, he's more fun when he gets to be like a loving but shithead dad. Yeah. Right? And we really don't get more of that. But I mean, like, I guess the thing is that this whole movie hinges on specifically taking the age-old idea of like a RAF lead. Because like one of the long-running themes or things that TMNT does is Raph and Leo butting heads. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And that's a thing that everybody kind of comes to expect. Like, I actually saw the 2007 TMNT movie in theaters. And that has like a whole, like, that's what that whole movie is about, and mostly handles it okay. Yeah. That's a pretty okay movie. But that's like what everybody expected. And it's kind of like, because people are, for the most part, cartoon, like old people cartoon, like old people watching children's cartoons are extremely uncreative individuals.
Yes.
And so they all watched Rise and were like, why don't Leo and Raph hate each other? And it's like, well, that's not really what this series is trying to do, right? So like this whole movie is really more so about like presenting the age-old Raph versus Leo thing, but in a different context, in like a more thoughtful way that I really liked. Like that's kind of the heart and soul of the whole movie is like living up to your older brother's expectations and understanding that like the reason he acts like kind of a overbearing older brother is because it's coming from a place of fear and love and not from like being mad at how he does things, you know?
One of the things that I've really like come to like think about with Rise is that in a lot of ways Rise is not so much trying to like branch out and just make characters different for the sake of, you know, being a new reboot. Mm-hmm. It's asking what if, because a lot of those character elements are still present in the boys, but they diverge in their development because the circumstance changed. Right. You know, what if Splinter was more interested in being a dad than a sensei?
Yeah, exactly.
That's why the boys never take anything seriously. Mm-hmm. They're more casual with talking to him. He let himself go basically, compared to other Splinters who obviously are still dads, but they are referred to as sensei. Yeah. And, you know, the boys are kind of under a stricter rule. Mm-hmm. I always like the comparison I always make is because when I watched the 2012 cartoon, which was that 2012 Splinter punished the boys for building a skate ramp in the lair, and Rise Splinter snuck a bylaw into their Olympics that allowed him to pick the tiebreaker event.
That's correct.
That's the difference between the two of them.
That's correct. Yeah. You know, it's taking all the same old elements, but just trying to do something different with them.
Yeah. Like, every Leo has an ego. Yeah. It's why he's the leader. Is because every single Leo has that arrogance and showboatsmanship. It's just that by being made the leader, they were forced to temper it. Right. And Rise Raph is still very angry and still very aggressive, but he spent his whole life channeling it into protective energy toward his brothers instead of letting it, you know, ferment and being the hot-headed loner, you know, badass who, you know, subverts authority.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You know, these are all the same elements of the characters, but they're just kind of taken in different directions because, you know, the thing about what like always chaffs my ass is this idea that if you wanted it to be exactly like the 2012 series or the 2003 series, why don't you just go watch those again?
Yeah, just go rewatch those.
Those still exist. They got a shit ton of episodes, unlike Rise. Like, see, the 2012 series got like 4 or 5 seasons, and the 2003 series has like 100 episodes or something like that.
I know, it's crazy.
Like, those both got a ton of TV. You again, as I like to say, you have the wealth of heaven at your disposal. So why do you want to just... But I mean, like, I hate to keep coming back to like these very cynical interpretations of culture, but lately I can't help myself, right? Considering the media landscape we're all existing in, culture these days is just about rehashing things over and over again. It's not about any kind of new kind of interpretation. It's taking... That's why Star Wars is only about Skywalkers and Kenobis and shit, right? And it's only centered kind of around the time frame that the 9 movies exist within, you know?
And there has not been... Someone pointed this out on Twitter. There has not been any content set after Episode 9.
Yeah. You know,
nothing has been said after Episode 9.
Yeah, you know, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
And it's because we're just kind of just culturally coasting. It is the end of history in the worst possible way.
Yeah.
Of just, Fukuyama was right in that extent. We are
in that
we are
one
sure
regard.
In that one, this is the only time I will ever say that Francis Fukuyama was right. And that is because we are just kind of coasting along in like the end of cultural history as we increasingly have like movies and games that are produced to be that are just focus tested to hell and back to just be what I remember, but slightly newer instead, right? Like, why do you want this came up a couple episodes. Why do you want a remake of Silent Hill 2? Why aren't you just pressing Konami for an acceptable PC release of Silent Hill 2 instead, right?
Yeah.
Why do you want something old made new again when the old thing is perfectly fine? Isn't it better to take something and make something totally new?
Like, what do you really want? Do you want a new TMNT cartoon, or do you want HD widescreen version of 2003?
Right, yeah, exactly. And it sounds to me like most people just want an HD widescreen version of 2003 and just watch the same thing over and over again. And if that's what you want, more power to you. I'm almost certain that the guy who did the Beast Wars machine remaster will eventually hit TMNT,
Yeah.
And then you can just watch that forever. But I personally, because I don't have any kind of emotional investment in the franchise as a whole, would prefer the new interpretation, right?
Yeah. And and as someone who has always kind of been a partial, I have a level of admiration for TMNT. I've always, I grew up when I was little, I watched it, and then I've always kind of like appreciated it for existing.
Sure.
Same with Transformers.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, don't you get the whole point of these two franchises is to constantly reinterpret themselves and reiterate and explore and be different every time?
Yep.
Like that's kind of the idea.
Yeah. I mean that's what you would hope, is that you would get something new and different out of a new interpretation of a series. That's when you get your really good stuff, right? Like that's when you get your, if you're going to work with what you would call like a legacy franchise, something that was big in the 80s and stayed big forever, isn't it better to do, like, that's why people like the first season of The Mandalorian so much, is because it's doing something, it's just its own totally different story, right?
You don't, when you're remaking or redoing or reinterpreting or creating a new version of something, for me it's never, you don't need to have these specific elements, like these specific familiar elements. You just need to have enough familiar elements.
Yeah, you just need a few things, and maybe you need to kind of recapture a certain vibe.
Yeah.
Right? We're all just chasing vibes.
Yeah. Like TMNT. They need to be turtles. They need a rat dad.
And they kind of want to be like, they have to be kind of party boys, right? In New York. That's it.
And not even the colors aren't even important. Like, this is the first TMNT, they all wore red.
That's right. The original cartoon, they all wore red. That's not the important part.
Wait, do you know what you need for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? They need to be teenagers, mutants, ninjas, and turtles.
That's it.
That's really about it.
That's really all you need, and everything else comes second.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no. I guess I keep dragging this conversation back to complaining about media landscape, but I can't help myself, damn it. That's kind of like the pall that hangs over TMNT in general, is every time somebody posts like a thing of like a really great animated sequence on Twitter, you have, dipshits who are like, well, it's not the same as the old series. I'm like, well, why don't you just go watch the old series, right? Why don't you go watch the old series with your bad animation, because it did. It's Sorry, folks. I
Yeah.
tried to watch old TMNT, and I don't have any love for it. Why don't you go watch the old series with your bad animation and your nostalgia bait fucking horseshit, and leave me alone. And let me watch my cool anime Ninja Turtles instead, right?
Yeah.
Because this movie is bursting at the tits with cool anime horseshit, and that's what matters.
There are to talk about just the movie now. There's so many just amazing animation bits. There's so much flexing in this movie. There's the bit that like opened my eyes on first viewing was the bit in the tunnels where Casey is admonishing Leo. And he does this gesture with his hand where his hand like bounces.
Yeah.
He's like, I think it's when he's like, you're impulsive, you're arrogant, you don't listen to your team. His hand shakes in this very accusatory way that I've never seen done in animation before.
Yeah, no, there's so much that little sequence was what really caught me off guard too, because there's just a lot of really good, subtle, naturalistic animation going on there.
And the other one that I want to highlight is again with Casey, when he has to remove the key near the end of the movie, and his eyes are watering, and you see his arm like go lax, and then he tenses up, and his eyes he furrows his brow, and then he relaxes again. Yeah, he softens up again. He has to it takes 2 or 3 attempts for him to work up the courage to do it.
Yeah, no, there's so much good, simple body animation going. I couldn't even give you a list, because the whole movie there isn't a moment in this movie that feels like it was half-assed, right? Well, excuse me, I will say, the turtle tank looks extremely bad in this movie. God love them. They did not composite that bitch into this movie that well at all compared to the original TV series. But again, we're giving them a break because they were clearly more concerned with other things. But that's the only thing in this movie that I was like, But other than that, movie looks great. There are so many just little moments of great animation and just great shot framing. There's so much really cool. I mean, obviously, I hate to keep calling the comparison, but there's so much obvious references to anime in the movie that of shot framing and composition that you don't see in Western animation, that is just blatantly we really liked Mob Psycho 100,
Yeah, that was that's the best fucking visual effect ever. And I think this movie did it better than Mob Psycho did, honestly.
I mean, I won't say that, because I think Mob Psycho is a once in a generation anime. But I also think that Rise is a once in a generation cartoon, right? Yeah. I think they are doing extremely similar things.
Not better, necessarily, but the composition of that shot appealed to me more than the way it was done in Mob Psycho.
Yeah. Okay, I get that.
Because I love the way Mob Psycho does it, where it's just there's no pomp and circumstance to it. He's just phasing into different locations while the camera stays on him.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But you get that solid impact when Leo clenches his fist and the sword is in his hand now, and they've shifted forward.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a thing they did in the TV series, but just with an even bigger flex, where you it really sells the craziness, I suppose, of teleportation, right? Yeah. Where it just instantly puts you in a new location. I know that sounds very rudimentary, but to me, that's such a simple thing to show, a cool magic power, is to be no, it is literal instant movement, and that is a really cool way to show it. And the whole movie is just full of really good stuff like that. The whole when we cut back to everybody, the 4 of them with their powers back fighting the Krang, And so you have this long extended sequence that is kind of reminiscent of the Shredder, like one of the Shredder fights from the original show, but just flexing even harder. There's just so much on display that it's hard to even keep up with. Like, it's a movie that, fortunately, maybe if I rewatch it 100 times, I'll be able to see everything. And also, maybe then they'll make a 3rd and 4th season.
Yeah.
By the way, love that this movie ends kind of like, hey, if we get a 3rd and 4th season, we still have a villain hook.
We do. You see them putting the Krang into the pod, like, we can still do stuff. Listen.
They didn't kill the Krang for a reason.
Yeah.
Because they're like, if we can just get like 16 more episodes, then we can do something with this. There's an extremely obvious reason they did not kill the Krang.
Yeah.
That I don't think they showed. So there's the brother Krang, the sister Krang, and I guess the other one that never talks.
Yeah.
Did they show what happens to the one who doesn't talk?
He exploded when the ship exploded.
He exploded. So, like, he could still be alive, too. Listen.
Yeah.
He could be fine. The other one got put in a pod, and the other one is just sealed away in the Hell Dimension. So, we still have our Krang villains that if they want to make another season, Netflix, and maybe...
They can.
Give me a break. Give me a little bit of break. We can get a 3rd season and wrap this whole story up, and it can just be one nice little concise story, finally.
Yeah.
Please.
Just maybe, please. I want to see what Draxon was up to.
I want to see what Draxon was up to. Yeah, I want to see more of the, especially, I want to see like Winston and Hypno. Right? I love them. I want them to come back.
Yeah, I think honestly, Rise has some of the best one-off mutant design, like, characters.
Yes. Absolutely.
Hypno, Warren, and Meat Sweats are like fucking peak.
Yeah, they're really good. There's so many good just design. I mean, I just really like Rise's art style in general. Yeah. It's just so different from everything else in animation right now. It's so like angular and sharp and stylistic. It has such a prominent soul. It's not trying to be anything but itself. I really, really like it. I think every design is really good. People who don't like that they look different are wrong. It owns that you can actually tell them apart now.
Yeah. I still think, because I rewatched a bunch of episodes, I still think one of my favorite jokes ever is in Goyles when Lujitsu is holding the baby turtles and he's like, how am I going to tell you all apart?
It's like they've never looked more different.
Yeah, this is the only series where they're all explicitly different species.
Yeah, it rules. There's so much just going on in this movie of just like really good characterization moments. They're really trying with the limited time they have to work with.
The thing that I love about this is that the whole movie could have very easily been overly cocky, fearless Leo and worrywart Raph. And that would have gotten annoying.
Sure.
Very quickly, right?
Yeah.
Like, if Leo spent most of the movie being very lackadaisical and, like, not paying attention and, like, thinking he's got everything under control. But they very quickly subvert that by instead giving him this, focus on saving Raph, because once again, Raph had to be there to take the hit for him.
Yeah, I really liked that they kind of, as much as I love my big, angry, soft-hearted boy, who is the best character in Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it was a good idea to kind of take Raph out of the equation for so long, because it becomes super obvious in that moment that, like, Leo is the leader at this point, But he is really just kind of relying on Raph to clean up his mistakes, right? Like, he fucks up and his older brother takes care of it. And that's kind of how he's coasting in this whole movie. He's just kind of coasting along. He's kind of complacent because, hey, if things go wrong, Raph will clean it up for me, right? And yeah, when Raph gets got at the beginning of the movie and captured, it is Raph kind of cleaning up this bad situation. And Leo's like, oh no, I've got to get Raph back because I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know how to unfuck this without him around.
He's got this ego boost of Casey telling him he's the greatest ninja the world's ever seen.
Right.
He's, being the leader and having a huge success record up until this point, you know? And now he's got this burden and these blinders on of no matter what happens, I just gotta go get Raph. It'll all work out because I'm good at this. I have to be good at this.
Right, yeah. And, he's just thinking, well, if I can just brute force my way to getting Raph back, everything will be fine. And eventually, the whole subway sequence is when everybody, gets beat, and it's like, well, no, you literally don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. You
can't just force your way back to having your older brother fix all your mistakes. You have to fix your own mistakes, right? And that's kind of what, like, the whole movie is. It's about, like, specifically understanding that you did something wrong, and you can't just hope somebody else is going to come in and fix it for you. You have to put in the effort to fix it yourself, right?
It's a great way of dealing with Leo's ego without making him annoying.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because, like, pretty quickly on, you understand that, like, his ego is taking, like, a huge hit, like, really soon into the movie, and he's just kind of spinning his wheels trying to make up for it. And only making it worse and worse because he thinks, well, I can fix this on my own.
Yeah,
I can walk this mistake back, and everything will be fine. And it's like, no, you actually have to. 1, you can't fix it on your own, and 2, you can't walk the mistake back. You're just going to have to deal with the fact that you made a mistake, and admit to it, and get better from it, right?
Yeah.
So, the whole movie kind of hinges on Leo and that whole character arc between him and Raph. And, like, that's the most compelling and interesting part of the movie, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And, like, it's what makes... I think it is really what makes Rise good, is it's taking, like we said earlier, it's taking these pre-established character concepts and kind of doing something a little bit different with them. Because, like, it's obvious that Leo, like, really, like, isn't clashing with Raph in the same, like, oh, I'm the leader and you're the hothead kind of thing. It's more like he really, like, loves and respects Raph, but also has kind of let him be a kind of a crutch to like cleaning up everything he does wrong, right? And so it's learning how to handle things on your own and be better that way.
Yeah, their ultimate fight compared to other versions where it's their conflict comes to a head and they have to actually weapons drawn duke it out.
Yeah, fight it out to get it out of their system. Yeah.
It's, for one thing, Raph is being controlled, so he's not able to, and Leo is only defending himself until he gets to that point where he says, like, I'm not gonna fight you anymore. Right.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, is that it's like, no, I'm not going to fight you anymore because you're being controlled and you should come back to yourself. But also, it's literally, I'm not going to fight you anymore. I'm going to listen to you more often so I can do this leader thing better.
Yeah.
Right? Like, literally saying, I'm not going to fight with you anymore. I'm just going to, like, rely on you as my older brother. And that's when, Raph has the turn and is able to kind of break himself free. And it's like, okay, well, we can be, like, the 4 of us can be a unit instead. And now we can kind of pull ourselves together and get out of this darkest moment. It's great. I mean, it's rudimentary children's storytelling, but 1, it looks super good. And 2, It's
And
extremely well executed rudimentary children's storytelling.
yeah, and when you have that legacy of what these characters were in the past,
Yeah.
it's exciting to see them reinterpreted and presented in this different way.
Yeah, and I just really like this version of these characters. I just think it's fun. I like the extremely goofy younger brother, Mikey, and Donnie being the way he is. And I don't know, I just think like these are still the same characters they've always been, just done like with all of their personalities turned up to 11 and acting like actual brothers and not just like superhero teammates,
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
I just like everyone else, I adore this interpretation of Casey. Turning him into Future Trunks was such a smart decision.
Extremely funny that he just stays.
Yeah.
Like, there isn't even a question like, how are we going to get you home? Like, nope. Bifurcated timeline. He lives in 2022 New York with his mom now?
I guess. We need season 3 so that we can see Cassandra and Casey Jr.
Please.
By the way, I guarantee it was a fucking epilogue of Harry Potter situation where she's like, Casey Jones, I named you after the bravest, strongest person I know. Me.
Myself. I'm naming you after me. That's correct. Oh, God. Yeah, no, I really wanted to see, I will say, really wanted to see everybody's future designs.
I know. I mean,
Yeah.
Leo's looks great. I mean,
Leo's, he visibly has one of Raph's arms.
Yeah.
Like.
I mean, we did see Raph and Donnie's future designs tied to Leo's sword.
I know. I know, but brutal. I wanted more.
So in that opening shot, though, we do see some cool things.
Okay, tell me.
Cool and also horrible. The shot where Mikey uses his chains to wipe out the dogs. With the shockwave, when the shockwave pans out, you can see Big Mama impaled on a piece of a I-beam.
Great.
And April's body as well, like in the foreground with her broken bat next to her.
Oh, okay. I didn't even notice that.
And in one of the quick camera pans, when it's like a bunch of soldiers like opening fire on the Krang, Todd is there.
Todd, you finally made something of yourself.
In his bulked up Super Saiyan form.
Great. Fantastic.
Which is one of the biggest misses is we didn't get enough future Todd. Are you kidding me? We could have.
I want to see future Todd kicking ass, man. I think Todd deserves to redeem himself by kicking people's asses.
Yeah.
I just think it's very funny that Casey Jones gets to exist in the same timeline as Cassandra Jones, and I want that very badly.
I think it's hilarious that he is very clearly Future Trunks, but he's if Future Trunks went back in time expecting canon Dragon Ball Z and got a bridge DBZ instead.
Yeah, exactly. I like his chainsaw hockey stick. It's good.
So fucking cool.
Extremely good design.
His mask kicks ass. I like that he has the red lines because Leo is a red-eared slider.
That's right. I love any movie that is able to, or anything really, that has creative uses of grappling hooks. And this movie absolutely bursting at the seams with creative uses of grappling hooks, which is, of course, Kino as fuck.
Yes.
It's just, do you want like a movie that is predominantly like a pretty good little family story, but also just 70 minutes of really good fight animation? Brother, have I got the movie for you.
I know.
Because that's what this movie is. It's got some good writing. It's got, some heart. But really what it is a lot of really good fighting animation. And a means to try and tie up some of this plot stuff left over from the show. Now, if only we could get a third season.
It was really cool to actually see the boys fight without their powers.
Yeah, absolutely.
To see like, oh no, they're still just really good ninjas without them.
Yeah, like they've still been trained to be good ninjas. Like they can
Yeah.
do all the fighting and stuff, and I think like part of that comes from this whole idea that this Netflix mandate to not make it too connected to the original series or to the TV series is to have them spend most of the movie without any powers. And in this case, it worked out for the best because you still get like a lot of cool, like interesting moments. I wish we had gotten more of that with Donnie and Mikey, but again, we only have so much time.
I wish I like. It was weird to me that like, so Leo gets to have teleporting swords and portals, right? And Mikey gets to have fire powers and infinite chain nunchucks. Raph kind of lost his shadow clone ability.
Yeah, they kind of only use the big Raph ability.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a shame. And they clearly are like, oh, well, what does Donnie's do? Literally anything. Shut up.
Yeah. Donnie just is a do anything hard light projection guy.
That's right.
Which is great when he just fucking created a bunch of guns.
Yeah, just like a barrage of fucking guns to light things up with. It's extremely good. Yeah, there's a lot of that in this movie, and I wish there was more of it. The one thing, like, the biggest thing is I wish there was more. I always wish there was more of this. That's right. I wish there was more of it. Now that I've actually seen, I haven't watched any of the deleted / we just couldn't make time for it scenes on Twitter because I wanted to watch the movie first before I go see anything with spoilers in it. But I will probably now seek out as much of that as I physically can, so I can maybe get a little bit of additional context. But again, I mean, it just all comes down to they only had so much they could do. It's a shame. They really, there was only so much content they could fit into it. They only had so many minutes, and they spent them really well. They spent them extremely. The problem is that Netflix's / Nickelodeon's mandate to not make it connected to the original series as much is like, but it's still so connected to the original series that it's not gonna make anybody like maybe this will make other people watch the show more, but it seems so. I've seen a lot of people who dismissed the initial cartoon, who said they watched the movie and now went back to watch the original show. Okay. Well, so maybe it is happening. That's good, because I just like, in my mind, it's so not like the original TMNT that it's not going to make those people happy, but it's also so not like any of the Rise elements that there's like, that's still going to leave the people who just like Rise, it's going to leave them wanting to, right? But for the most part, I'm pretty satisfied. Like, Yum Yum, I'm so full on closure. I would like more. But for the most part, like, I'm pretty satisfied just tying up because like they've been alluding to the Krang the whole show, right? Right. Like the whole show had been building toward the Krang. Like, just like how this is like the scariest version of Shredder ever. This is the most terrifying Krang has ever been. Oh my god! Fantastic Krang designs, though. Holy shit! I love that they were able to make the blobby Krang that aren't in a suit like still threatening too. Like when they're just kind of like tentacle monsters like oozing around, they're still scary monsters, and they're still able to like fight back and stuff. And then of course once you put them in their mech suits, they're even scarier. It's like, oh, that's really cool. I love that. Yeah. Their mech suits, which again are just like you said earlier, like super Ava reference. Yeah, big Kill la Kill, Lord Genome vibes from Gurren. Like especially the boss Krang. Do they have names? I just keep calling them Brother Krang, Sister Krang, and Boss Krang. In the show notes, they are Krang 1, Krang 2, and Krang 3. Great. So yeah, Big Krang, Boss Krang, him sitting on his throne like that is just like an explicit, like, there's some Promare in there because you see Leo doing the same pose in Promare. There's obviously Lord Genome from Gurren Lagann. Like, that's a big callback because that whole, like, legs spread, lazy pose on the throne is it's a stylistic callback, obviously. Yeah. It rules. It whips ass. There's so much good art in this movie. Like, that's what it really is. It's so beautiful.
Someone actually put ashes from Promare over the scene where Leo is holding the Krang back. So Casey can close the portal.
Yeah, great.
Ugh,
I saw somebody did Raph versus Leo, but with Kakusei over top.
Oh, that would be good too. Fuck.
Yeah, I need to watch that too. So, like, yeah, no, like, ultimately, there isn't. An hour and 10 minutes is about as much as I can wring out to talk about this movie.
About this movie that is an hour and 10 minutes long.
That's right. Yeah, I can't talk for 2 hours about a movie that's shorter than that. Maybe I could. But like, the biggest thing that stands out to me is just, like, how immaculate so much of the art is. Like, everything feels like it was animated on ones. I don't know if it actually was animated on ones. There are parts of it that feel like it for sure.
Yeah.
It's Disney quality. It's better than Disney quality. It's just looks so beautiful.
Yeah, no, it's like, as far as TMNT content goes, it's peak for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, this movie is absolutely the peak, and I really hope that this can lead to, like, it gets big enough, it gets enough eyes on it that it can lead to a potential season 3.
Just one more. I keep saying that. Just one more, please.
Because there's two things. So I wanted to see if we had time. I wanted to go into, like, what their ideas for season 3 were. We don't really don't, but there's two I wanted to focus on, though, at least.
Sure.
One, the really cool masked hooded lieutenant that Big Mama has. That was going to be one of the 2 extra turtles.
Yeah, it was supposed to be Venus, right?
It was either Venus or Jenica, but in one of the shots, like, during one of the flashback episodes, there are 6 pods that have turtles in them that Lujitsu's DNA goes into. And one of them was going to be her, and then the other one was going to be somewhere else.
Yeah, because, like, even during the show, I mean, the Big Mama having that lieutenant was a seed that got planted, and then obviously they couldn't do anything with because the cancellation came in so suddenly. But I mean, you could see the design in the show, and and on Twitter you see, like, the design notes, and it's like, that's a turtle.
That's just a turtle. Yeah,
it's just a turtle girl.
They've got the 3-finger hand. Their cloak is obviously hiding a shell. The front of their tabard looks like like a turtle chest.
That's right.
It's very obviously a turtle, and
I know who that is. Yeah.
The fact that we didn't get an actual good version of Venus de Milo is upsetting.
Yeah, it was really, you see so much of that, and it's like, oh, I really would have liked to have known what they were going to do with that. Well, nevertheless.
Well. The other quick thing is that Karai was always going to die, but she was going to stick around as a ghost that April could call on.
Oh, good. April deserves a stand.
Yeah. And the final thing that we were robbed of, and why this season needs to come back, there was going to be an episode where the boys hunt down lost Lujitsu media. And it was, what it is a parody of the Star Wars Holiday Special with Jupiter Jim, where Lujitsu shows up in the very last second as a guest star.
Great!
We were denied the Star Wars Holiday Special with Jupiter Jim.
This is what they... Remember what they took from you.
This is what Nickelodeon stole from us.
We could, and of course, I mean, we've talked before, I think, about Wedding Crashers and how much I want that fucking episode, possibly more than anything in my entire life, where Leo and Raph, or is it
Mikey and Raph? Yeah.
Mikey and Raph crash Ghost Bear's wedding. I wanted that really bad.
What was his fiance's name? She was a chupacabra.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Wasn't it like Pepper or something?
It was
like
some kind of Pepper or something. Yeah. And it was just like, I wanted that. I've seen the storyboards for that one, and it's so funny. Like, even in board form, it's really good. And I want that. I want so much. I just want one more. Please, I'm begging you on my hands and knees. I need a third season. I need like 12 more episodes. That's it.
Keep Save ROTTMNT trending. Fucking, I don't know, email people. Like, just, if you have a Netflix account, just stream it. Just watch the episode. Like, leave it on loop.
Please.
Do whatever you can to get those numbers up. So
I just want one more season, and then I can die happy, and then I can separate myself from the franchise again, because that's all I want. Please, that's my humble plea to all of you out there. Watch Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We didn't spoil this movie too hard. You should watch Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the movie. It's really good.
I mean, it's also got the plot of a Dragon Ball movie. Like,
that's
a new villain shows up, the heroes fight it, they win in the end.
Yeah, they lose it first. Some stuff happens. There's a bunch
Piccolo
of fights.
shows up.
Piccolo shows up very briefly and helps save the day. In the end, the good guys win. That's it. But it looks really good the whole time, and it's funny and cute, and it has some good heart, even with its foibles. So, please watch Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles so I can get one more season, please.
Ben Schwartz is a fucking
fantastic Leo.
God. Oh
Extremely
my God.
Good Leo. Honestly, the winners for me, Raph continues to be, because he's not like a real voice. I mean, he is a real voice actor because he voice acts.
Yeah, but he's not like
he's not a known factor. Yeah, but like Raph's voice actor is extremely good. Like, I don't know, he just has a lot. You can just really feel like all his like heart and soul being poured into this character, and I just really like this characterization of Raphael. I think he's just so good. Like, he's just my good big boy, okay?
It's gonna be hard. Kind of like how IDW Megs ruined Megatron for me.
That's right.
It's gonna be hard to go back to any other Raph after this.
I'm not gonna watch the fucking Seth Rogen, mostly because I hate Seth Rogen movies. No. But I'm not gonna watch the fucking Seth Rogen movie and have another edgy asshole Raphael. I'm sorry. I have now fallen in love with this big, grumpy, angry boy with a heart of gold who doesn't know how to express himself. I think he's perfect, and I love him. He's never done anything wrong, ever.
Also, Sora's in it. I mean, that's why I love it, too.
Wait. Oh, that's right. Casey
Jones and Haley Joel Osment.
That's right. He is literally Sora. Congratulations, Ben. You did it. We have squared that circle. Ha! Square. Like Square Enix? Anyways.
Yeah.
I'm full of jokes, folks. But yeah, no, it's good. You should watch it. We didn't spoil it too bad. You should go enjoy all the good animation. Maybe watch it 6 or 7 or 50 times. Please. Yeah. Yeah. Now that the series is also up on Netflix, you have an extremely way to actually view it. So you should do yourself that favor and watch a good movie. Watch some good cartoons.
Yeah, watch good stuff.
Watch good cartoons. Don't watch bad cartoons. Watch good cartoons. That's the only life advice I can give you, people. Sorry. Everything else I leave to Ben.
Anything else?
No. I'm trying to think. I really wish we could have seen Future April, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I wish we could have seen
I'll live.
A lot of Future people.
I wanted to see more Future designs, but other than that, this movie is a winner. It's a solid. I give it an 8 out of 10 because it is still kind of thin. It's a slam dunk. It's a little thin on the ground, but it's still worth it. It's only 70 minutes of your time. Go watch it, please.
It's the TMNT equivalent of the Super Broly movie.
It's extremely pared down to its like what's the word here? It's extremely pared down to like its
the
essence.
bare minimums.
Yeah, like it's boiled down to its essence. It is condensed TMNT, but that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. So watch it. It has all the spectacle and heart and beauty of the Dragon Ball Z Super Broly movie, which is also a good movie. So yeah, there you go. That's all I got.
All right, that'll do it. Thank you to Visager for use of Racom Music. You can follow me on Twitter at The Gorge Podcast. You can follow Sara at Radioinactivity. You can email us at thegorgepodcast@gmail.com. And if you want to listen to Sara talk about other things, you can listen to other podcasts.
Hey, I'm in another podcast called Big Gay Nerds, where me and a bunch of cool queer friends get together and we play tabletop games. We have several different systems that we cycle through. It's always a lot of fun. Right now, we're playing Beam Saber, a hack of Forged in the Dark, where instead of playing as thieves, we're playing as mech pilots in a very complicated geopolitical situation where we're all just doing our best to stay alive and keep possession of our robots. It's really good. I love this system. I love this game. I'm really happy to be back to it because we were gone from it for a while. The most recent episode we just finished is fucking wild, so you should come check it out. There are no less than in a system. Okay, I'm gonna take a second here. It is extremely hard to get a critical success in Forged in the Dark because it requires you roll 2 6s. Because it's a D6 based system. Mm-hmm. So you have to roll 2 6s, and it's already hard enough to roll 1 6, right?
Right.
1 point, I rolled 3 6s.
Ooh.
And then, so that the most recent episode we has no less than 3 different critical successes. So you should come listen to it because it rules.
That's
it's
a once in a lifetime event.
It's a once in a lifetime event. You should come check it out. Great game, great cast, great system. Yeah, that's Big Gay Nerds wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks.
All right. I think we said this last time, but
fuck Nickelodeon.
Fuck Nickelodeon, but also fuck the current landscape where animation can just get removed and become completely inaccessible.
That's correct. Dog shit. Absolutely. I hate this lost media. This lost media generation that they foisted on us.
In 15 years, some guy on YouTube is going to do a lost media, like an episode about Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as lost media.
I know.
Or fucking Infinity Train as lost media.
And it's going to piss me off.
You're going to be like, that's not lost media.
It wasn't lost media when I was watching it, fucker.
It wasn't lost, it was stolen.
It was taken from us violently against my will. Anyways, check on Twitter. There are people posting links to getting free, to getting Google Drive links to episodes of Infinity Train and Now Mao and other stuff. So,
and due to some unfortunate clicking, it's also actually endorsed by Cartoon Network. Because the official Cartoon Network, one of the official Cartoon Network account, or Warner Brothers animation account, liked some tweets that had links to
Google Drives.
Yeah, oopsie doopsie.
Pirate your cartoons, kids. That's what I'm here to tell you. Learn how to pirate shit. And we'll see you all in 2 weeks.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.